Good day, minasan, konnichiwa, Samurai Engineer desu. So let us, for the day, let us discuss about Life Safety Code Handbook. So we are going through the specialized topic in engineering, which is very much related to several engineering disciplines, like mechanical engineering, civil engineering, sanitary engineering, electrical engineering, and electronics engineering. Particularly in the Philippines, those are the kind of disciplines that are related to this one. So this subset of engineering is what we call worldwide as fire protection engineering. And also it involves architects or architectural engineers. Okay? And this handbook is actually an explanation of the code and standards developed several years ago. And up to now, it is very much specific with several expertise, with several areas. And however, all of this discussion will revolve to life protection, welfare, and health of the people. So this is what we call life safety. Okay. So this handbook is the 14th edition, which is year 2017 and released 2018. So these are the persons involved in editing this one. So Engineer Gregory Harrington and Engineer Christine Begda. Okay. So they are both serving as an officer in the National Fire Protection Association. So very popular organization worldwide. So the National Fire Protection Association. Again, let us go to the document, chapter by chapter. Well, this document is about 1,200 pages. So we cannot explain this in one setting. So bit by bit, day by day, so we will give explanation. So let us browse through what are the contents of this document. So from chapters 1, we have administration. Chapter 2, reference publication. Chapter 3, definitions. And chapter 4, general. So these 4 chapters are oftentimes standard content of any NFPA. So what I mean by NFPA, National Fire Protection Administration. Okay? So these 4 chapters. And number 5, performance-based options, giving us some flexibility for engineers to decide on what would be the actual installation. Chapter 6, classification of occupancy and hazard of contents. Then chapter 7 is means of egress, which is very much important. Chapter 8, features of fire protection. Chapter 9, building services and fire protection equipments. And then interior finish, contents and furnishings. Those are included because we have to use materials which are standardized so that we can predict how long or how fast those materials would give way to the fire. Okay? And 11, special structure in high-rise buildings. Chapter 12 and 13, new and existing assembly. So from this chapter up to chapter 22, so 12, 13, 14, 15, so 2 chapters at a time. Those are the chapters that discuss new assembly occupancy, and existing assembly occupancy. So, respectively. So, new and existing, new and existing. So, therefore, you will get the point that even the existing buildings, existing structure are covered by this standard. Okay, 24 is 1 and 2 family dwellings. 25 has nothing to do with anything. It is reserved for the future, together with chapter 27, 34, 35. So chapter 26 is lodging or rooming houses. And chapter 28, 29, new and existing again. 30, 31, new and existing. 32, 33, again, new and existing. So those are standard feature of this handbook, new and existing, okay? So 36, 37, 38, 39, new and existing. 40 is industrial occupancies, a very special chapter for specific purpose, no? Again, 41 is reserved, 42 is storage occupancies. Okay? And the last chapter is building rehab. Even the rehabilitation part needs standard and code to guide us for professional practice. Okay? And also important part are annexes that explains these are not included in the code. These are recommendatory and explanatory aspect in nature, but very much good document in order to help us understand and get the context of what is being stated in the code itself. So, and since we have this, we can familiarize ourselves with one or two application, meaning, for example, starting from 13 to 14, existing assembly occupancy. So these are for public use. So if you want to do that, for example, hall, for theaters, okay, so assembly, point of assembly, meeting assembly, some public gatherings, okay. We are, for example, interested in educational occupancy. So let us discuss this one. So one or two, and also daycare occupancy. We are curious to know what are the difference between educational occupancy and daycare occupancy. So what is the difference of elementary school and kinder, okay? Daycare, okay? So also we might be interested in healthcare occupancy. Okay. So we may choose to study one or two family dwellings because most of the fire occurrence happen in this area, at least in the Philippines, and we are interested to protect ourselves, to give our selves and families safety. One or two family dwellings. So we have to select what? So let us, for example, select 1, 2 family dwellings and what? Existing apartment buildings. So if we cannot do that, so let us select 3, single and 2 family dwellings, apartment buildings, and we might be interested in what? Healthcare occupancy because of the current occurrence of pandemic around the world. Okay, so let us do that, and so these are the explanation of the authors, acknowledgement on some specific person and association to thank for. Okay. So these are the two editors. So there are several members of the committee who contributed to this code. However, these are the major editors of those committees that serve for the establishment of the 2017 fire safety standard. So they are on NFPA Building Fire Protection and Life Safety Division of the professional aspect of his career. Okay, so Life and Building Code Technical Committee. Okay, so and he has a BS degree in Mechanical Engineering and MS degree in Fire Protection Engineering. Okay, similarly, aside from Engineer Harrington, we have Engineer Bigda, which also served as NFPA Building Fire Protection and Life Safety Division and committee, technical committee, and has now again a bachelor's degree in civil engineering and MS degree in fire protection engineering. So civil engineering, mechanical engineering, so those are related. So let us just discuss the important aspect of technical changes from the previous to the present. So it is what, 2015 to 2018? So NFPA 101. So take note, the codal name is NFPA 101. So this is Life Safety Code. What are the major difference? Okay. For each section, we have Chapter 1. So there are several changes pertaining to scope expanded to include hazardous materials emergency. So it refers to what? To some advanced research on materials. Okay. Scope again expanded to include injuries from falls. So it list additional kind of injuries that happen through or in between 2015 and 2018. So again, scope expanded to include emergency communications. So very much welcome because there are fast changes and advance in technology pertaining to communication, signaling. So emergency communications. So those are the aspects, and also the last for Chapter 1, areas not addressed in previous code is now added. What about that? Retail sale and associated storage of consumer fireworks are not addressed in anywhere in the code. Okay? Okay, so in Chapter 2, reference publication, so we have several references that are added. For example, in Chapter 2, NFPA publication alone. So there are so much NFPA code. 4, 20, 55, 150, 495, 1221, 1126. Okay, so in those publications, for example, here, up to this point, NFPA publication added to Chapter 2 because documents are newly referenced mandatorily somewhere in Chapters 3 and 2, 43. So they are specifically stated in the reference publication. Because, you know, codes are a document that could be adopted as a law. So that's why the code is written as a law, no? In the format, in the shape of a law. So that's why it is very much concerned with specific wordings, specific referencing, because those are the future basis of what? Maybe court battle or something, okay? So there should be a reference to it, to particular document, okay? Again, NFPA 1126 deleted from Chapter 2. So there are addition and there are deletion because it has been withdrawn and therefore it is no longer referenced mandatorily. So mandatory, meaning it must be enforced, okay? So since it is withdrawn, it is now deleted in Chapter 2. So again, BHMA publications added. So this is the name of the publication added to Chapter 2 because documents are newly referenced in Chapter 7. So additional documents are necessary if there are reference from the code, so which are not stated previously in 2015 code. So we are talking about the new ones, no? 2018. ASTM publications added to Chapter 2 because documents are newly referenced mandatorily somewhere in Chapter 3 to 43. So BHMA and ASTM are there, no? So those are the major association, organization that release codes and standards. NFPA, ANSI or BHMA, ASTM, okay? So again, ASTM. And then, as you will notice, we are on the Chapter 3 definition. So there are some changes in the definitions of terms, okay? For example, definition added to support items used elsewhere in Chapters 4 to 43. Additional terms. For example, previously, there is no COVID-19 term. So now, we have COVID-19 term. Just an example, in engineering, those are researches that establish additional information, and therefore, you have to define some technical words in order to describe something. So, continuous improvement, continuous advancement of study, and therefore allows us to adjust our definition accordingly. Then, new definition added to support terms used in Chapter 7. So, specific only for Chapter 7. So, we are what? Curious about what is Chapter 7. Okay. Means of egress. Very important. Means of egress. So, we change some definition pertaining to that. Then, therefore, we have to take note of that. So, Chapter 7. About delayed action closure. So, this is a technology that changes the whole concept of Chapter 7, egress. Okay? Obviously, this must be an improvement to previous experience. Okay? Emergency control functions, definition, replacing fire safety functions. Okay? Added to support the terms used elsewhere in Chapter 4 to 43. 4 to 43 are the applications of the code in general. No? Okay? That also includes Chapter 7. Okay? Mall concourse. About malls, open mall concourse, enclosed mall concourse. So, about malls. So, there are plenty of malls, new buildings, mall structure, and therefore new definition added to support change in terminology from use of mall building to mall structure to make it more what? General, no? Mall building, mall structure, because not all mall is a building. Okay? Structure is a more general term than building. Okay? Building means it allows people to occupy that area. But structure, it allows or may not allow. For example, tower of for telecommunication or antenna. Those are structures that are not designed for human occupancy. Okay? So that's why structure is a more general term than building. Okay? Hazard material, health hazard material, physical hazard material, hazardous material, toxic material, highly toxic material. So this term, new definitions added to support new requirements dispersed throughout the code for protection from hazardous materials. So obviously, researchers and studies found hazardous material to be included in some building, in some structure. That's why we are able to establish that, and because of those information, new studies recommends that those materials be what? Avoid the use of those materials. Okay? So next, ambulatory health care occupancy because of what's happening. Definition revised to change emergency or urgent care to treatment. Okay? Treatment na lang siya. Okay? Emergency. So it became a more specific terminology. Okay? Power doors, low energy, power operated doors, power assisted doors, power operated doors. What are those differences? New definitions added to support new requirements for power doors in Chapter 7. Again, that is means of egress. Okay? So, pertaining to that. And also, renovation, definition is taken from Chapter 43. So, Chapter 43 is the last chapter which covers renovation and of existing building. It covers generally all of those things. Okay? And self-preservation capability, healthcare and ambulatory healthcare occupancies. New definitions added, separate from existing definitions to support use of term and healthcare occupancies such as those in chapters 18 to 21. Okay? So, very much and timely use of terminologies here. And then mall structure. So now, we differentiate mall building to mall structure. So we have now former definition of mall building revised to create new definition for correlation with changes made to mall provisions pertaining to chapters 36 and 37 on mercantile occupancies. Okay? So anyway, we already picked 3 chapters that we would like to present in this course so that we have an actual view of what it's all about. We pick 1 and 2 dwelling, family dwellings, apartment buildings, and healthcare facilities. So if we have time, or you can do it on your own, we present 3 specific areas of application just to represent all of the application. You can study or self-study on your own other specific applications which are related to your interest. Okay? So underground structure is also here, definition revised to quantify the distance below lowest level of exist discharge. Level of exist discharge is a technical term, or LED, being 9.1 meters. Okay? The definition is revised. Okay? We have now a quantity. Beforehand, we have to say lowest level of exit discharge. Okay? But we are quantifying it, the distance being 9.1 meters. So that's a good thing. 9.1 meters, lowest. What is that? Okay, chapter 4 is still general for every NFPA code. Is the general discussion of the concepts and principles, and it is being detailed in this chapter. What about this? New goals added to support new scope expansion in chapter 1. So there is additional scope, and therefore it will have, for example, vision. And then we have mission. We have to develop, corresponding adjustment. Okay? Hazardous materials, emergency protection, new objective added. So, goals, objective. So, yan ang magkakano eh. So, vision, the top one, we have to think of a way to solve the mission, or to gain or to attain the mission, to attain the vision. So we have the mission. And then we have the objective and goal. Okay? So goal is a statement, or goals are statements that describe specific actions to be made in order to ultimately reach the goal, reach the vision. Okay? Multiple safeguards provision broadened to include the rendering of safeguard ineffective. Okay? So, multiple safeguards are those necessary. Provision broadened, included any rendering of a safeguard ineffective. Okay? So, let's find out that later. Specific 4.5.1, very important provision. Then next is construction, demolition, and alteration. New menu item added to permit the occupancy chapters to require compliance with the provision of NFPA 241 for construction, demolition, and alteration of projects. So, changing the purpose of the building will change this, no? So you have to, for example, alter, demolish, and put up another one. And those are covered here. Limited combustible materials, provision for limited combustible materials, expanded to reference the use of ASTM E2965. Very specific, there are materials that are provided for and specifically given guidance by the code. Okay? Fire retardant treated wood, also new materials and fire retardant treated wood. So new research, new studies, new technology were developed in order for some wood products to be treated in such a way that it retard fire. So because woods are considered as light materials. Light materials meaning it can be easily catch fire and be burned down, okay, than or compared to other type of materials. But additional treatment will allow good and better performance for wood products. Okay, fire retardant treated wood treatment through several sections of the code. New material and fire retardant treated wood treatment added. So additional materials are there. Okay. No change in Chapter 5 for the performance-based option. And we will go to Chapter 6 and up to Chapter 7 before we go to the actual discussion of the code. Because Chapter 7 is very important. No? Chapter 6, classification. What are the classification of occupancies that would permit easy identification and different skills and firefighting and so on, and protection, fire protection and safety. Definition of 1 and 2 family dwelling unit revised to delete independent cooking and bathroom criteria. Okay? So, they deleted independent cooking for 1 or 2 family dwelling. And bathroom criteria. Okay? Okay, so another one are those sections wherein definition of separated occupancies changed from use of fire resistance related rated assemblies to fire barriers. Okay, so very important point. We will discuss that in chapter 2 definition, chapter 3 definition, different terminologies and what are their technical meaning. Fire barriers. What is the difference between fire barriers and fire resistance related assemblies? Okay. And we are now going to chapter 7. Various revisions made to enclosure of exit provision. So, different technology involved providing for the enclosure of exit, because exit ways are designed to withstand the longest during an incident. So, because if the exit pathway is the first to be borne down, where do you exit? So, those are designed to be able to withstand the longest in compared to other areas of the building. Okay? Clarification made that stair landings are permitted to use 2 meters headroom. Okay? Okay? Stair landings. Clarification, no? Stair landings, no? 2 meters is 6'8". Okay? 6'8". In the Philippines, this is already a tall headroom. Just like that permitted for the headroom on stairs. Okay? So, it is clarified and given specific and certain quantity, for example. So, 6'8" or 2 meters. Okay? Headroom, for our headroom. And impediments to egress provision added to require the monitoring, recording equipment. Okay? So those may pose risk, obstacle to situation where we need to be fast in moving out of the way. Okay? So require monitoring permitted within stairs inclusions not present in impediment to egress. So there are, for example, communication facilities, communication device, monitoring device, video cameras and so on that are connected somewhere that may impede the easy and comfortable outflow of people and properties out of the burning building. Floor level revised to require in new construction that the level floor criterion at door openings be applied for a depth of at least 36 inches, so 3 feet or about 915 mm. Okay? Floor level. Okay? Door openings. Okay? That the level floor criterion at door openings be applied. Okay? So yan yung ano natin, no? Okay, so continuing, Chapter 7, Hardware System Name Change to Door Hardware, Release of Electrically Locked Egress Door Assemblies, Corrective Changes made throughout the document. So again, adoption of something with allow us to adjust correspondingly our code. Delayed egress electrical locking system. Okay? Minor hardware system name change. Delayed egress hardware. Okay? Because there are certain additional codal provision pertaining to the device under UL 294. So, delayed egress electrical locking system. Okay, next, sensor release of electrical locking system. So, these are pertaining to what? To safety door locking mechanism for emergency purposes. So, additional technology around that area. Hardware system name change to sensor release of electrical locking system. Corrective changes made throughout the code. Panic or fire exit hardware revised so as to apply to side hinge, and pivoted swing doors. Okay? Okay? So, what are the necessary adjustment? So, swinging doors. If you are in panic, so there is a very bad experience in Quezon City wherein many people died because of the wrong way by which the door opens and closes. No? The wrong side of the door. Okay? So the door opens going inside, and all of the rushing out people obstruct the opening of the door. So it is a very sensational accident happened about 20 years ago in the Quezon City area. Delayed action closer. Next text to permit use of delayed action closers. Power door lift operation. Door lift. Okay. So again, for BHMA. Okay. BHMA is building, home. Okay. Yung association that standardize the use of devices, home appliances, makers of home appliances, or building appliances. Okay? So they have additional home appliances using new technologies, and therefore we have to adapt to that. For again, doors, okay? Revolving door assemblies. So more on doors because we are particular with Chapter 7, egress. We want to go out faster. Okay? Handrails. Okay? Exemption from handrails at two sides to one side reformatted for clarity. Okay? So there are certain situations wherein handrails could be on one side alone. Okay? Stairway identification revised to clarify that the sign must be visible from within the stair enclosure. Okay? So, signboards that describe stairway, exit, egress, okay? Emergency, okay? Must be visible from within the stair. So, andun ka, you are inside the stair and you don't know where to go. There are several people ahead of you running in all directions, and you are yourself confused where to go. And if there are signs that are clear inside that enclosure, stairway enclosure, it would definitely help. As simple as that would definitely save lives. Exit stair path marking materials. Okay, so additional markings offered for path marking materials. Okay, additional technology in that. Smoke-proof enclosures, smoke-proof enclosure pressurization. So it is part of this code to require added for new smoke-proof enclosures using the pressurization options to comply with NFPA 92. Okay? Provisions for locating and protecting smoke-proof enclosures elements from fire extended to include control wiring and power wiring. Okay? So horizontal exits, although change might appear to be technical, involves only an editorial reformatting for clarification. And then occupant load. New provision to permit AHJ to limit occupant load to that which can be accommodated by existing egress system. Also recognizes continued use of existing egress system if previously approved. Who will approve? Again, it is written down here, AHJ. AHJ meaning authority having jurisdiction. Okay? Occupant load factor. So there are tabulated information and data inside the code that gives us an idea and recommendation on the quantities that would allow us to estimate something, to predict something, and calculate something. Okay? Occupant load factor, very much useful in some computation. Occupant load for business use changed from 100 square feet per person to 150 feet per person. So the needed space requirement increased, no, per person. That is equivalent to 9.3 square meter per person to 13 square meter per person. So a very big increase, no? About 4 square meter additional area. Also, 2 new occupant load factors added for business use collaboration rooms, spaces dependent on room, spaces area threshold. Take note, not applicable from next column, technical meeting amendment and some specific sections of the code here. Okay? Occupant load factor. We are using this for computational matters. Okay? Again, for estimates and design purposes. Okay? Still, we have spaces about electrical equipment and additional sections which are changed, wherein additional references to NFPA 70. What is NFPA 70? That is National Electrical Code, or NEC. Added so users know that provisions other than NFPA 101 apply to such spaces. So specific on those sections, spaces about electrical equipment and so on. Okay? Discharge through interior building areas, sub-items. Revised to make clear that door to outside need not be visible upon leaving exit enclosure on level of exit discharge. Signage can be used to lead occupant to door exterior. So upon exiting the door, it is not in any way necessary to for the people to be able to visibly see the signages. Okay? Emergency lighting, generator, revised to so related transfer switches that not just generators must be compliant with NFPA 101. So 110, emergency lighting generator. So lighting of the egress pathway should be the last electrical system that should burn down. Okay? Should be able to service during the exit, egress, and during those emergencies. Not all the time, but some period of importance. Okay? How much? About 10 minutes. It's very safe. with this code, we are given a detailed recommendation. How much is it? Okay? Emergency lighting equipment testing. So some of the equipment, particularly those involved in emergency lighting, are tested differently. NFPA110 standard. Okay? Special provision for hazardous materials, again, during the egress process, should be addressed where hazardous materials are stored, used, or handled. Non-egress related concern addressed in other chapter, but those who are within the egress pathway are addressed in this. For example, do not store hazardous materials along the way of emergency pathway. You can store it in some other area of the building, okay, far away from the emergency pathway, okay, and those forms part of the important changes from the previous code to this new existing NFPA 101 code. Other chapters will be discussed during or on those specific chapters respectively. Okay, so let us breeze through. So still there are several changes up to chapter 43. So there are changes up to chapter 43, and we will discuss that later. Now we are okay. Chapter 43, no change because that is a what? New chapter. Okay, so let us discuss now the preliminary pages before the actual chapters, because we have separate discussion for each and every chapter. For example, now the revision symbols identifying changes from the previous edition, so that to be able for us to know what are the meaning of this. A delta sign before a section number indicates the words within the section that were deleted. Okay. So if we have a delta sign here, delta sign, okay, those number indicates that words within that section were deleted. So there are some technical words in that section that are omitted already. Okay? When a chapter was heavily revised, the entire chapter is marked throughout with a delta symbol. So if there are heavily revised, where one or more sections were deleted, so one or more section lang, no? So that is a dot is placed between the remaining sections, in between. Okay? So meaning that that symbol dot represents the deleted portion of the section. Okay? Chapters, annexes, sections, figures, and tables that are new are indicated with N. So meaning new. Note that these indicators are a guide. A rearrangement of section may not be captured in the markup, but users can view complete details in first and second draft reports located in the... So drafts are also important for backtracking purposes. And they give the specific website to go to. Any subsequent changes from NFPA technical meeting, tentative interim advances, and errata are also located there. So if you want to know about those documents, you can go there. So shaded text, meaning revision. Delta, deleted portion. Included are tables and so figures. Section, deletions, new material. So those are what we are... okay. So before we go, let us take a break. And again, everybody, thank you very much. This is your Zamurai Engineer at your service.